Hey Fusion, Jordan Minnich Kjesbo here. Just want to take a quick minute to reflect on the sermon from this past Sunday a little bit. We had Pastor Eric and Pastor Denise Van Meter share with us about these concepts related to peace and tension and living in close proximity in this time. And it was a really good dialogue about what does it mean to find peace. And as I've sat with it for a couple of days, I thought back to a class I used to teach at a college in Pennsylvania where we read Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from Birmingham jail. And in it, he makes this claim that peace is not the absence of tension, but rather the presence of justice. Excuse me. And I think there's something really good in that. You know, as good Midwesterners, we love to eliminate tension. And for us, oftentimes, that is how we define peace. But in this day, in this moment, I wonder if we need to rethink this. If we instead need to focus on what does it mean to promote justice. For sure, this is a concept that has been in the news a lot in the past week. And it's a conversation we need to have. What does justice look like? And as I think about the passage that Eric and Denise shared out of, we need to recognize that we live in a highly individualistic society. And we define everything on what is the impact on me. And this was not the case for these communities that these letters are coming out of. They define justice and peace by the impact on the whole community. And so for us, as we ask, what does it mean to find a peace that seeks justice in this time? We need to look outside ourselves. One of my favorite authors is a guy named John M. Perkins who wrote a book called Let Justice Roll. And he says this: there's no reconciliation until you recognize the dignity of the other, until you see their point of view. You have to enter the pain of the people. You've got to feel their need. Perkins is a civil rights activist who's like 90 now, and he's just this man of deep wisdom. And he is a Bible scholar, and he gets that this is what justice looks like in the biblical sense, that it is to see and give dignity to those who are not necessarily like us. And so as we live in this COVID-19 world, this prompts us to ask some really challenging questions. What does justice look like for those who are immunocompromised as we start to have larger group gatherings? What does justice look like for small business leaders who are barely hanging on? And to balance safety and their business. What does it look like? What does justice look like for people who have lost jobs and income? For farmers who are struggling and who have been hit over and over and over, and this just feels like one more thing. To be sure, there are no easy answers here. But this is where that tension becomes important. That tension of justice. That tension of thinking of what is good for the whole of our community. Right? What is the common good that we can speak to in this? So I'd invite you to think about that this week. How can we seek a peace that seeks justice and not just glosses over the tension? Because if we can figure that out, then we are starting to get back to what the Bible is calling us to for our communities. How to live together, how to do this thing well. Thanks, Fusion. We'll see you Sunday.